especially Regina, who will be doing the interview today. And so, yeah, this is again Sunrise. We're considering Regina for a candidate endorsement, and so part of the process is having an interview. And then after this interview, which is going to last about 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to have an internal discussion. So we'll kick you out, Regina, but just so that we can have a discussion and decide, whether or not, well, the discussion doesn't decide whether we endorse or not. We will vote on that in the Slack. So for now, I'm going to introduce you. So this is Regina Banks, running for the Elk Grove Unified School Board District. Did I get that right?
Board of Trustees.
Board of Trustees. And so I'll give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself, 3 to 4 minutes, and then we have some questions gathered from folks in Sunrise.
So should I go first, or were you going to? Okay.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
Fantastic. Well, good afternoon. My name is Regina Banks, and I am for 31 years, I have called the unincorporated South Sacramento County area of Florin home. I went away to school. I earned a couple of bachelor's degrees. I've earned my law degree. And then I came back home, and much to my parents' chagrin, I decided I did not want to practice law, but I really did care about advocacy and policy. So I worked for all of the do-gooder lefty policy advocates that you can think of. So California Employment Lawyers Association, CAOC, briefly for the ACLU, and so on. And now I work for the Lutheran Office of Public Policy, California, where I serve as the director. And because I serve as the director, I'm in that advocacy space with all of the usual suspects. So I got a sneak peek at the May revised budget this year. So for 2 whole days, I knew that the state of California thought that it was perfectly okay to cut K through 12 education 12.6% while cutting prisons and incarcerating our brothers and sisters 0.7%. And couldn't say that to anybody. All I could do was scream it into my pillow. And in those 2 days, I decided I had to do something. So I started looking around at who was going to be in that fight, who was going to be being a part of that conversation about where that 12.6% was going to come from. And I was less than impressed. I don't see anybody here on this call that's from the Florin community, so let me tell you a little bit about my home. Area 1 of Elk Grove Unified School District is the smallest district. It's about 12 square miles of a district that's 330 square miles. So we're talking teeny tiny. It's 9 schools. It's 1 high school, 1 continuation school, 1 junior high school, and the 6 elementary schools that serve it. Every last one of them is a Title I school. Every last one. It is the only area of the district for which there is only Title I schools. Everybody has some, but nobody but us has all. We are the brownest. We are the second blackest. We are the most English language learners. We are the most housing insecure. We are the most food insecure. We are the ones most likely to have violence in the home. And then you look at a 12.6% cut, and I know, and you know, where that cut is going to come from, unless someone is looking very hard. So that was my impetus for running. That's what made me say yes. But that was before we knew that the pandemic was going to be what it has become. We were all at home, but we were thinking, people would get it together, wear a mask, we'd all be back at work by now. So now the primary thing that everyone needs to be looking at is how do we get through this pandemic time equitably. And I say equitably and not equally, and I say that on purpose. And here a little bit of snapshot of what I mean by the difference. The students, none of the students got laptops or hotspots during when they were all sent home because of the pandemic. Nobody did. The district didn't give it to any kindergartner or pre-K. The students that are at Sierra Enterprise Elementary had classes on Zoom. How'd they do that? Because the parents at Sierra Enterprise have a spare computer, or they went out and bought a computer and they've got Wi-Fi in the house, and the teacher was able to assess that all of the students were able to go forward that way, and they had a Zoom class. The students at Anna Kirchgater, which is in Area 1, got 2 45-minute phone conversations with their teacher twice a week if the teacher could get through to the student. That's if the parent answers the phone and gives the phone to the child and the child talks. That's inequitable. I've gotten several different answers as to how that came to be. But in the end, it doesn't matter, because Sierra Enterprise students had less of an interruption of their schooling. They lost less time. And the other thing that struck me as very odd is during another one of these interviews, somebody told me, and she was very proud of herself, and she was very excited to be able to tell me that because everybody's graduation was going to suck this year because it was all going to be online, they made a special rule that parents couldn't do anything special for one school as opposed to another. And she was very proud to be able to tell me that. And all I was appalled. Because what that means is every other year, parents who can afford the Skyriders and the limos to pick up every senior and can afford to buy out the arena so that no individual student has to charge their family members to come in, they get that every year. And that's not true of Florin. That's not true of Valley High. And those are the kinds of things that are equal but inequitable, and the kind of work that I'm looking at trying to change. And then third, although since I'm talking to you, I probably should have said this first, is the climate crisis. And anytime you've ever seen me write those words, I write them in all caps because it is an emergency, and I recognize that as such. In my day job, I had the opportunity to go to the UN Climate Change Summit in Madrid. And
Regina,
yes.
I'm gonna interrupt you. Sorry. I think we might be able to hear a notification sound. Not sure if it's your computer or someone else's computer.
Let's see if that stops it.
Okay, and it totally fine. We just want to be able to hear you. Make sure we can hear all your answers clearly.
And just really quickly, that was a life-changing experience for me, and I'm very grown. Of course, the people in the big meetings and the talking heads, those were heads of state, and those were older people. But the ones who had the energy, the ones that had the innovation, the ones that were in the hall showing the new and exciting and innovative ways that we're going to have to invent and conserve our way out of this emergency that we've built, those were the youth. I've marched in the street with Greta Thunberg and children of 10, 12, 14. So I know that the students in Elk Grove Unified can do, if they can do it in Madrid, they can do it in Elk Grove. And I want to be the adult on the board that says, yeah, let's do that. Let's try it. Let's make it work. Let's Fridays for Future. What have we got on tap this week?
And Regina, I have to interrupt you again here because we do have some questions that the Sunrisers would like us to get to. To start with, do you support removing police officers from school?
Yes. I say that very, very quickly, but let me be very clear. My grandfather was the first Black deputy sheriff in Genesee County, Michigan. 3 of my 4 uncles are uniformed police officers. My mother is a former probation officer. I don't hate the police, and also they don't belong on our campuses. And again, those of you who are not familiar with Elk Grove Unified, because of the amount of land mass that the school district sits on, those students are not exposed to 1 police department, they're exposed to 4. The city of Sacramento, the city of Elk Grove, the county of Sacramento, and the California Highway Patrol. You're in a fight in junior high, and all of a sudden you're in 4 databases. Let's use them
To
as counselors.
follow up on that question, because that's definitely in line with our values as well. Do you support school policies oriented more around restorative justice than the punitive system?
Alternative dispute resolution and restorative justice. That's how I would like to see our current criminal justice work. And the best way to do that is to train them up, train them up early so that they come out as adults expecting to solve problems that way. I don't want me or my neighbors thinking that the best way to solve a problem is to call in somebody with a gun.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, again, it sounds like you support all of this, and so I think a question here that you brought up yourself is the cuts to school budgets that are probably going to happen in part because of COVID. And how will you work / commit to getting more counselors in school and more mental health services, that sort of thing?
I mean, the low-hanging fruit is to cut the contracts that we have with those four policing agencies. But also because we haven't invested in the counseling, we haven't invested in the social workers, we haven't invested in the school nutritionists. We're doing those things as outsourcing. If we hired our own, that's less expensive. Even if we hire our own into the unions, which I would expect for them to do, that is far less expensive than the contracts that we've got going for the piecemeal bits that we do have going for the small areas of the district that get it. I think there are other ways to trim fat. And I would have to, because of the school board is a deliberative body and you have nothing until you have 4, I would definitely need to be in conversation with the other trustees about where they see. But for me, I think you can get way more than 12.6 just cutting those 4 contracts.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that answer. Let's move on to more around kind of, Sunrise's general focus. Of course, we believe in the intersectionality of these events, and we all have to work together on every aspect of it. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by soft power and what how you would wield that to phase out fossil fuels in our communities?
Yeah, so in my understanding of power is twofold. There's hard power. I have the title, I have the gavel, you must listen to me. I don't especially care whether you like what I have to say or not. Soft power is anything else. So, and in a board situation, almost all of your power is soft power because, again, you have nothing until you have 4. So looking at the composition of the board as it is now, and I will point out that I'm endorsed by 4 sitting members of the trustee board, three of which potentially could come back, 2 of which, depending on how Bobby St. Allen's mayoral race runs. But what I'm saying is I've already demonstrated my ability to work together with not just some people, but those people in particular. And then looking at the conversations that are being able to be had with the unions, unions and building trades, every one of those conversations I've initiated. What are your green policies? What are your, what's your opportunity? Where do you see the opportunity to move towards carbon neutrality? And some of them looked surprised that we were having the conversation, but then we had the conversation. And it didn't have to be adversarial. It didn't have to be gotcha. It's just, if I'm going to be around and I'm going to get a certain amount of bully pulpit and I'm going to get a certain amount of, hey, she's got a title. If she says something, let's print it in the paper. I'm happy to use that soft power to to advance our goals.
Excellent. Great. Um, can you expand on what you do to support student activism? And this question seems a little bit direct, but I'll ask it since it was put in the document here for us. Would you choose police over student activists?
Okay, so I'll tell you the story very quickly. Um, the very first thing that I did as a socially aware citizen of America, I'm like, I'm an American, you have to listen to me. The very first thing I did was walk out of school at Florin High School. One of the students who had turned 19, so he was an adult, got suspended. They didn't call his parents because, again, he's an adult. We're not going to call the parents. They let him drive off campus. He drove off campus, was shot and killed at an intersection near campus. A whole lot of things went wrong in order for that end result to be the death of a student. And as soon as the day after or 2 days after, the entire student body, a good chunk of the student body walked out. And we were told before we left, this is going to be an unexcused absence. Those of you who are missing exams will not be able to make them up. Those of you who are not turning in papers, those papers are just Fs. Think long and strong before you decide to walk out. And I walked out. So there are things person that would be in my district should I be elected. So I don't think it's a function of choosing the police over the students. I choose democracy and I choose the First Amendment over everyone.
Great. Excellent. Yeah, it was a little bit of a direct question there, but you did great. Thank you so much for being here, Regina. Really appreciate it. I'll give you the last 30 seconds to just kind of outro yourself.
So again, I really want for you to feel how different I felt coming back from Madrid in December. It was when I left the house, it was a junket. It was, hey, I get to go to Spain for free. But being in the room where it happens, being there, seeing all of the different ways that all of the different countries of the world are putting on display how they're working to try to save the planet, and having this obvious gaping hole where the United States should be and wasn't. And they did that on purpose, and well done them. They didn't say, oh, the United States isn't here, so we're not going to make a space. They made a huge space and said, this is where the US should be. And that has stuck with me. So I want for the next time to fill that space. I want my students to fill that space. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. And also, one last thing, our democracy is broken. It's going to take more than us just voting in November and maybe in March in order to bring it back to true. It's going to take these conversations on a Saturday afternoon and the work that you put into deliberation in order to get some of it back if it's still possible. So as a citizen, I want to thank you very much for the time and energy that you've put into it.
Yeah, I think I can say from everyone here at Sunrise that we really appreciate you being here and saying words just like those. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys have a great afternoon. May I ask when I might be hearing back from you?
Logan, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, so we're going to take about 48 hours to just make sure everyone in our membership can see this recording and vote. So about 2 days from now is when we'll reach out to you.
Fantastic.
Thank you again for being here.
Bye-bye.